Welcome down to the first postseason edition of Ice Level. As always, I'm your wonderful and very new to this business host, James Blennau. As the postseason kicks off with our first conference tournament games this weekend, we have a special way we're going to cover these games a bit differently. And before you know it, we'll have so many highlights you'll call this a clip show. Let's get into the news before I ramble on for too long. In the Ice Level Lowdown, we have a few milestones to go over this week. Let's start with one from a fellow member of our college hockey media scene. Congratulations to Denver hockey play-by-play broadcaster Jay Sticken on broadcasting his 1000th game on Friday night. Sticken has broadcast the Pioneers for the past 2 national championship seasons and seen countless alumni make it to the NHL and stars skate across Magnus Arena for decades. Congratulations, Jay, and here's to many more. Our second milestone is way over in Hockey Valley as Penn State head coach Guy Gadowski won his 400th collegiate game on Friday night. He's spent over 20 seasons in the business with Alaska Fairbanks, Princeton, and is the first head coach at Penn State. Gadowski also won 2 conference tournaments, one in ECAC hockey with Princeton and one in the Big Ten with Penn State. He and the Nittany Lions now look to continue their season as they look for an NCAA Tournament bid with a win against Minnesota last weekend. This week's Game of the Week takes us up to the North Country in New York to see number 19 Clarkson take on number 13 Quinnipiac in a battle to determine the fate of the Cleary Cup. The Golden Knights came out firing after taking down the Bobcats in Hamden the first time around in a 3-2 overtime heartbreaker. Arten Martino got the Knights started less than a minute in and set the tone that they came to play, and followed it up with another early goal nearly 15 seconds into the period to make it 2-0. The rest of the second was quiet offensively, but one of the conference's best goal scorers, Jack Ricketts, put the Bobcats on the board 5 minutes into the third to make it 2-1. Andon Sorbonne tied it a few minutes later on the power play from Ryan Bottrell's tripping call. Trey Taylor took the lead back on yet another min-advantage goal just about halfway through for the Golden Knights, but Travis Treloar kept the Bobcats in it with less than 2 minutes left to send it to overtime at 3-3. Overtime was tense, and in the final seconds of the extra period, Ryan Bottrell ended it and sent Shield Arena into a frenzy with a breakaway goal to grab the extra point and the win for the Golden Knights. Martino had 2 goals and an assist, Taylor had a goal and a Gino, and the number 19 team scored 4 goals on only 12 shots. In this week's upset uproar, I called them troublemakers last week, and I may not be able to say I told you so, but boy does it feel good. In the height of the Iditarod sled race, these Huskies were out in full force as they raced across the Rockies to Magnus Arena as St. Cloud State won a tight 2-1 matchup against a surging number 6 Denver team. Damon Gardner kicked it off with a goal midway through the first from Tyson Gross, and despite Jack Devine's power play equalizer from Aiden Thompson and Zeev Boyum, after a Tyson Gross slashing call, the Huskies answered the call. Werner Miettinen won it on a timely deflection from Barrett Hall and Colin Ralph to end it there and then midway through the second period. 14 blocked shots and 38 saves for the Huskies won it in the Colorado Capitol as they took 3 massive points before the NCHC's frozen faceoff. This week, to start out the cross-conference highlight hub, we're going to start doing something a little different for the playoffs because where there's postseason play, there are highlights. So for our first postseason round of the year, here are the highlights from the AHA Tournament first round single elimination games. It's RIT versus AIC at Army's Tate Rink, both teams fighting in one game to keep their season alive. We jump now into the second period, about 13 minutes to go. RIT on the breakaway, and it's Jacques Philippe who buries on the rebound on the Chase Clark save. 1-0 Tigers at the halfway mark of the period. Now we jump to the third with 17 to go. Alex Malinowski fires one from the point, and John Lundy buries the rebound. It's tied at 1, and the Yellow Jackets are still alive. Now we go to overtime. Oscar Geschwind drops it to the trailer Casey McDonald, who puts it in the toy department. RIT heartbroken. AIC moves on to the next round, keeps their program and their season alive another day as they go to Worcester to face Holy Cross. Game 2 of the weekend takes us to Buffalo as Mercyhurst visits Canisius. We're going to start in the first period. Kyle Haskins gets the scoring started with a steal and a wild between-the-legs goal. Let's take another look at that real quick. Just a disgusting move, incredible coordination, and it's 1-0 Golden Griffins. Into the second we go. Justin Garagash looks for the pass and the shot, but gets denied by Ben Bonesteel. A big save to keep it 1-0 at the end of the second period. In the third period with 10 to go, it's Grant Porter sneaking one by Carter McPhail and icing it for Canisius. 2-0 Golden Griffins with 10 minutes to go, and that score would hold to be our final. Canisius moves on to the next round and visits Bentley with the 2-0 win. And in Game 3, Robert Morris visits Air Force. This one was a true barn burner. Let's start in the first period. About 9 minutes left. Robert Morris up 1-0. Falcons going to crash the net, and Will Dawson is going to find the loose puck out there. The scramble in front ties it at 1 in Colorado. And with 14 to go, Michael Felsing rips a wrister past Guy Blessing. Colonials back in front 2-1 into the third period. Tied at 2, 5 minutes in. Falcons corral the puck, and Sam Stitz finds the back of the net. Air Force has its first lead of the night at 3-2. And then with 10 to go, Tanner Klumpke finds a loose puck out in front of the net and sneaks a one-timer through to the back of the net. RMU brings it back to 3-3. One overtime wasn't enough. It goes to 2. Chris Hedden's shot won't make it, but Anthony Yu puts it in. Heartbreaker for Robert Morris. The Air Force Academy heads to Fairfield to take on Sacred Heart. That's a 4-3 final score from Colorado. An outstanding performance by both teams, but only one can move on. In the Big Ten, the postseason is just around the corner this weekend, so before we go over what the bracket looks like, let's take a look at this weekend's full results. Number 11, Michigan, and number 8, Ohio State split their series, but not evenly. Ohio State won Thursday night's game in overtime, while the Wolverines took Game 2 on Friday, before the campus was taken over by the Stadium Series at Ohio Stadium. Number 3, Michigan State swept Notre Dame on the road in identical 5-2 fashion in both games. Number 15, Penn State took an overtime win against number 2, Minnesota in Hockey Valley on Friday and lost in regulation on Saturday, and Wisconsin sat, awaiting their fate for the conference tournament. And the bracket is here, so let's check out who's playing who and where for our second conference tournament this season. Quarterfinals are 3-game series with 7-seeded Notre Dame visiting 2-seeded Minnesota, 6-seeded Wisconsin visiting 3-seeded Ohio State, and 5-seeded Penn State visiting 4-seeded Michigan for the weekend. Michigan State takes a first-round bye and plays the lowest remaining seed for the single-elimination semifinals with a 1-game final just before Selection Sunday at the highest remaining seed's home rink. In the CCHA, as the Mason Cup playoffs field is set, let's check out how the final regular season games went from top to bottom. Lake Superior State and Bowling Green split their series, each taking 3 points at BG. Ferris State and Northern Michigan split their series too, as the Bulldogs took a regulation win and the Wildcats a shootout win. Northern Michigan took a visit to St. Thomas and the Tommies took 2 regulation wins. And finally, number 14 Minnesota State took a regulation win and shootout loss at home against Bemidji State. Similarly to the Big Ten tournament, the Mason Cup playoffs kick off this weekend, and let's see what the bracket looks like. The first round games are all 3-game series at the higher seed, starting with 8-seed Lake Superior State visiting 1-seed Minnesota State. 7-seeded Bemidji State heads to South Dakota to play 2-seed Augustana. 3-seed St. Thomas sees 6-seed Ferris State in a State of Hockey showdown. And 5-seed Michigan Tech visits 4-seed Bowling Green. The semifinals and finals are also all single elimination, with teams reseeded and higher seeded teams hosting games at campus sites. Another conference and another tournament set after a full weekend slate of games, and let's check out who took home how many points this weekend, because the more names I read off, the more confused we'll get. In order of teams in the current standings, Quinnipiac took 4 points, Clarkson took 3, Colgate took 5, and Union took 3, rounding out the top 4 teams. Dartmouth swept, taking all 6 points and finishing as the best Ivy League team, followed by Cornell, who took 3, Harvard, who took 3, and Brown, who took 2. In the bottom 4, Princeton took 5 points, RPI took 1, Yale took 1, and St. Lawrence came out of the weekend with no points to finish the regular season. ECAC Hockey's tournament works a bit differently to the other ones we've gone over, with 4 teams earning a first-round bye and campus site best-of-3 series for the first 2 rounds. This weekend, 5-seeded Dartmouth hosts 12-seeded St. Lawrence, 6-seed Cornell hosts 11-seed Yale, 7-seed Harvard hosts 10-seed RPI, and 8-seed Brown hosts 9-seed Princeton. 1, 2, 3, and 4 Quinnipiac, Clarkson, Colgate, and Union respectively will all see reseeded teams for the second round hosted at campus sites, while the final weekend consists of semifinals and finals in single elimination games at a neutral site in Lake Placid. In the Hockey East, the tournament is not set after this weekend of games, so lucky for me, I don't have to write another bracket, and for you that you don't have to listen to me explain another. This week's games were all over from Tuesday to Saturday, so let's see how everyone finished in the second to last weekend. Number 10 BU won its meeting with number 9 UConn in Stores on Tuesday night in a shootout, and the week was just getting started. Thursday night saw number 17 UMass beat rivals number 16 Lowell in a shootout in Amherst, also winning Saturday's matchup in Lowell in regulation. UConn swept their weekend at Northeastern in convincing fashion. Number 5 Maine also followed suit, sweeping Vermont at Alphond, and number 7 Providence swept its home-and-home series against Merrimack. Number 1 BC took a regulation and shootout win in its home-and-home series against New Hampshire, and that rounds out our Hockey East results. With only 1 weekend left in conference play, let's see who's primed to make a run at the Lamorello Trophy in the standings. BC leads the pack with 52 points, followed by Maine with 48, and a big drop-off to BU in third with 40. UConn follows them with 37, and Providence not far behind with 36 in fifth. UMass follows them with 33, just behind them rivals Lowell with 30, and Merrimack with 28. Number 9 Northeastern sits with 23, 10 Vermont with 22, and New Hampshire with 17 points in 22 conference games played. And in the NCHC, with the Frozen Face-Off looming and 1 set of regular season games left, let's check out the conference's results from this past weekend. Number 6 Denver split its series with St. Cloud State at Magnus Arena, while rivals number 18 North Dakota took an overtime win and regulation loss at number 4 Western Michigan, while the Broncos clinched the Penrose Cup for the first time ever as NCHC regular season champions. Minnesota Duluth won in overtime and a shootout at home, allowing Miami, Ohio to double its season point total over the weekend, but likely out of the conference tournament. Last but not least, Omaha saw number 2 Arizona State head into town and split the series with the conference's second place team before the weekend. In the final year with the Frozen Face-Off at XL Energy Center before moving to campus sites, let's see who's ready to take a run at the trophy in this week's standings. Western Michigan leads right now with 51 points, followed by Arizona State with 47 and Omaha with 41. Not far behind them are Denver and North Dakota tied with 39, and just behind North Dakota is Colorado College with 32. Rounding out the 9 teams are Minnesota Duluth with 26 points, St. Cloud State with 21, and Miami, Ohio with 4.
The Ice Level Podcast is sponsored by Best Damn Tape. Best Damn Tape's mission is to supply the most affordable and elite level sports tape to athletes worldwide. You can go to bestdamntape.com and use code DanKShow40, that's DanKShow40, to get 40% off your order. Go to bestdamntape.com and order your clear tape, your black and white tape, scented stick wax, and more.
This week, instead of the USCHO poll, we're going to look at the 16 teams that as of today would make the NCAA tournament using the Pairwise rankings. Teams that are outside the top 16 that I mentioned would not be guaranteed to make it, but are the highest rated teams in the current one-bid conferences. This prediction also does not account for the auto bid being stolen by a lower rated team outside the top 16. This is just the best teams that would make the tournament right now. As the 1 seeds, we would have BC, Michigan State, Minnesota, and Maine as 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 seeds would be Western Michigan, Providence, BU, and UConn as 5, 6, 7, 8. The 3 seeds, Ohio State, Denver, Michigan, and UMass as 9, 10, 11, 12. And the 4 seeds as Quinnipiac, Penn State, Minnesota State, and Sacred Heart at 13, 14, 17, and 21, as Minnesota State are the highest rated CCHA team and Sacred Heart the highest rated AHA team. Higher seeds will earn seeding closer to their school and their fan base in the placement for regional sites in the tournament, with each being grouped into a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed for each region, and teams in the same conference unlikely to meet in the first round. With 1 week left in the regular season and postseason play picking up, let's check out a special Forecheck Forecast. As we mentioned before in the Big Ten tournament, Penn State, as a tournament hopeful, heads to Yost Ice Arena for its quarterfinal series against Michigan on Friday and Saturday, with a potential Game 3 on Sunday. Number 6 Providence heads to Beantown to take on number 10 BU in a standalone Hockey East game on Thursday night. Number 5 Maine also takes a visit to Mullins to play troublemaker number 16 UMass for a 2-game weekend series in the final Hockey East regular season weekend. And finally, number 6 Denver splits another home-and-home series with rivals number 20 Colorado College, with the first game in the Mile High City on Friday night for the final weekend of NCHC regular season play. And that's it for Ice Level this week. Thanks everyone for coming down to the rinks across America with me for a different type of episode. Next week will feature even more highlights than this, so keep your eyes peeled for that and an upcoming article. But for now, we're not experts, but it takes fans to grow the game. I'll see you next week.